Good morning, folks. Buckle up for the wildest ride of your life. No, not a roller coaster. We're talking about something much more thrilling. The onboarding process for your social media marketing agency. Get ready to laugh, learn, and maybe even shed a tear.
It's enough to make a grown man cry.
Okay, all jokes aside, onboarding is actually crucially important. And what I'm about to show you is the onboarding process that I used inside of my agency that we grew from zero to nearly $2 million in sales before we sold it.
So this is how I encourage my students to think about onboarding. You have day zero, which is when money is actually transacted. Before day zero, you have the marketing and sales teams working on things. And then after day zero, you have the technical team and the communication team working on things. Each of these arcs represents the amount of time and effort spent with the client during that particular part of the customer journey. So here's an example of what the communication might look like during the same period of time. Once the agreement is signed and the payment has been confirmed, on day zero, the communications team is going to send the onboarding form as well as the onboarding email. Then between day 0 and day 14, there's going to be 2 Zoom calls. Between 14 and 21, there's going to be 1 more Zoom call. And then we'll have a 2-week check-in call after the client is launched. This is the technical setup. So somewhere between day 0 and day 14, the high-level account setup and the ad setup is going to be assigned to the technical team. And then they will continue to make edits in the next weeks and months. So in this training, we're going to cover every single part of these 2 setups in painstaking detail so you guys know exactly what to do. First, the agreement. Here's some suggestions on building your agreement. Put the agency's scope in writing. You don't want the client to be requesting something you don't actually do after the fact. That's why you have an agreement in the first place. Secondly, put the client requirements in writing. If they don't know what they're supposed to do and it's not clearly outlined, it's not going to happen. Put the time frames for both the agency scope and the client requirements in there as well. Cover yourself legally, consult a lawyer, make sure that you get something that's actually going to protect you in the case of a chargeback, set expectations properly, and remember that a shorter agreement most likely is better because most people aren't going to read a really lengthy agreement. So in my experience, a short, to-the-point agreement that makes it abundantly clear what the client is supposed to do and what the agency is supposed to do is much better than something filled with a ton of legal jargon that no one's ever going to read. So this is what my agreement looks like. We have the cover page, then we have the agency services page, then we have the setup call schedule so they know what's happening in each one of these calls and when they're supposed to happen. Then we have the timeline of what the next few months will look like. Then we have future pacing, making it clear that we want to work with them for months and years into the future. Then we have the guarantee. This is where we list the client requirements to qualify for the guarantee. Ours is not a money-back guarantee anymore. It's just a services guarantee. So if they don't receive an ROI in the first 3 months, we'll continue to run their ads for free until they do. Then we have some testimonials, very important, especially when somebody's about to make the decision to sign. They want to see that other people have had a good experience. And then this is the last page where they can sign, initial a few important things, and then provide their credit card information for us to bill, as well as put on file for ads. If you want more details on how to build your own agreement, make sure to check out this video. Next up, we have the onboarding email. Remember, this is sent on day 0. Here are some tips for this onboarding email. The main thing you're trying to do here is outline the setup timeline and client requirements. So you're going to assign the onboarding form completion to them, tell them the timeline of the calls and setup again, give them course or community access if that's included in what you offer, and then include any other onboarding items that may be relevant. Again, I want to stress shorter is better. Nobody's going to read a really long email, and that goes along with the next point, which is make it scannable. If somebody can't scan through your email quickly, go back and edit it, add headings so that they can easily see what's required of them. Here's my agency's onboarding email outline. As you can see, I've made it scannable and followed all of the other tips that I outlined in the previous slide. Next up, we've got the onboarding form. This is where you include all the items and information that you need from your client. For example, software and account access. Many people ask me about how to onboard using Facebook. Just include this in your onboarding form and include some tutorials, photos and videos that you need from the client to run ads, the best contact emails for certain things inside of their business, information on the background of their business, branding details that they may want you to know, the offer for their ads, and scheduling need-to-knows if you have an appointment setting service of some kind, or you'll be setting up an online scheduler for them. Also, keep this pro tip in mind. Use something that allows the client to complete the form in multiple sittings. There's nothing worse than filling out an entire form, seeing that it glitches, and having to fill out every single field again. Use an editable PDF or a Google Doc, for example. This is what my onboarding form looks like. We have some general practice info that we ask. Then we have information on how to access Facebook. We can click on this and go to a tutorial. It has steps and a video that outlines how to add us admin on their Facebook page. If you want more info on clients getting you access to their Facebook page, check out this video. Then we ask for information on their offer, which we also link to an article that explains how to choose an offer. And then we have a ton of questions on appointment scheduling, because we do appointment booking for our clients. And then lastly, we just ask them to re-acknowledge what they committed to do as part of signing up to be a client with us and initial all of the statements here at the bottom. That brings us to the welcome call. This should happen as soon as possible after the agreement is signed sign, and the payment is sent. On the welcome call, we're going to review expectations of success, review the setup timeline, and then, this is very important, handhold the client through incomplete tasks from the onboarding form. For example, if they couldn't figure out Facebook access, we're going to be on a Zoom call live with them and walk them through the steps. And then at the very end, we'll make sure to have the next call scheduled. Never let your client off an onboarding call without scheduling the next one. And as a note, if you're the only one running your agency and you don't have a team, this can absolutely be combined with other calls, like the sales call. So these are what my slides look like for the onboarding call. We talk about a services overview, go through a couple testimonials, and then we discuss the 3 layers of support we have inside our agency. Number 1, email and online chat. Number 2, videos and articles, and number 3, one-on-one Zoom calls if they really need to hop on. Then we review the most important items from the onboarding call, such as Facebook access, getting business manager access, connecting Google My Business, connecting their website chat, getting photos required for launch. We have a specific list of photos that we need from them, videos that we need for them to launch, reiterating that we need regular content from them, going over ad targeting specifics with them, going over offer specifics, talking about points of contact, connecting with their practice management software for appointment booking, scheduling requirements, and ensuring that they've completed every single part of the onboarding form. We remind them to go through the video training and then review upcoming Zoom calls and the requirements for their future calls. And then lastly, as I said, get a time on the schedule for the next call, which will be the CRM call. The CRM call is where we teach our clients how to use the lead management software that we're using. There are a ton of options, but hands down the best one is HighLevel for agencies. Check out this video if you don't know what HighLevel is yet. So on the CRM call, we're going to get the client to log into the CRM. We're going to review follow-up expectations and provide resources if they're going to be doing their own follow-up. So we'd say, hey, you need to call on day 1, you need to call on day 2, you need to call on day 3, you need to be texting the leads regularly. And if you don't do this, you aren't going to get the ROI that you want. Next, we get the client to bookmark the CRM and download the mobile app. This is crucial. This means that they're going to get notified of every single lead that comes in and have easy access to the CRM on their browser, so they're much more likely to follow up. And then lastly, just practice making calls and texts with them through the CRM, because anybody can sit through a meeting, but not everybody will remember unless they actually do what you're telling them to do. Next up, we're going to have the launch call. This is when your technical team has completed everything that's required for launch, and we can now review with the client and click go live. During this call, we'll review the ads with the client, review the landing pages or forms that go along with those ads, review the automations such as text, calls, voicemails, etc. And again, just repeat the follow-up expectations. The client must call the leads in order to succeed. And then lastly, we remind the client again and ensure on the call that they have bookmarked the CRM and downloaded the CRM's mobile app. After this call, you'll publish the ads, make sure that they're approved a day later, and watch the client's progress over the next week or so. The next scheduled call you'll have after this is the 2-week check-in call. During this call, you just review performance, you answer questions from the client, and you follow up on tasks that the client has not completed. Some bonus items that you can include in your onboarding to make things really stick out to your clients is sending a personalized welcome video. The software that does this is Bonjoro, or HighLevel also has a native version of it. You just send a video of yourself or your account manager welcoming the client and their team into the agency. Another thing you can do is a welcome gift, for example, sending crumble cookies. Brownies.com also sends baked goods to people all over the world. This can do a lot for making the client feel like you care about them. And then lastly, a wow or swag box. This is an advanced level thing, but when someone signs up, you can send them a box with swag from your company, encouraging them to stay on for a long time and thanking them for being a client. All right, that's it for communications. This brings us to the technical setup. One book to help you with the principles we're about to discuss is the EMyth Revisited by Michael Gerber. In the book, he helps you see that every process in your business must function like an assembly line. One person does the task and passes it to the next person, which has a very specific role. So in our case, person 1 is the communications team. They complete one call, collect all of the information, pass it to the technical team, who completes the technical setup, and then the technical team passes it back to the communications team, who approves everything from the client, and then the communications team passes it back again to the technical team, who launches the ads and monitors their performance ongoing. Now, this begs the question, what happens when the setup is passed to the technical team? How do they know what to do? And that's where checklists come in. A checklist is part of your operations manual that allows you and your team to complete the same thing consistently by following the same steps every single time. Here are some tips when it comes to setting up your checklist. Build your minimum viable checklist first and then slowly build more detail into it. The example I'm about to show you is overwhelming. You cannot build this at the beginning. You need to work up to it. Secondly, you will edit this later. Break it into easy to identify sections so that you can easily edit and add to each section instead of having to recreate the thing every every time. Third, explain things so a child could understand. This will make your business more reliant on systems instead of on people. Fourth, you can add images and videos to your checklist over time so that it's easy to reference things in case somebody forgets how to do a certain step. And then lastly, stay on top of updating this checklist. Changes compound quickly, and if you don't update them regularly, they're going to be completely outdated in a matter of weeks. So this is my technical setup checklist inside of Notion. That's what we use for project management inside of my agency. So you can see on the surface, this looks simple. We have things that must be completed before the CRM call, things that must be completed before the launch call, and things that must be completed in the following months. In the case of my agency, we use 4 primary softwares to achieve everything: ManyChat, Zapier, Go HighLevel, which is branded as LeadFlow for our agency, and Facebook Ads Manager. Inside of each one of these steps is a complete checklist. For example, this one for Go HighLevel has all of the settings needed for every single part of the software. And if we click on each one of those, there's specific instructions, and then there's a video outlining how the process works. Same thing for the next one and for all of the rest. As you can see, if we were to expand every single step of this standard operating procedure, it gets very long and very detailed, which is what a team needs to operate consistently every time. So when it comes to setting up the system for your agency, I encourage you to draw a graph just like this, outlining the different parts of your teams and even putting names on each one of the colored lines. And then also to put together a timeline just like this one for the communication setup and for the technical setup that shows when each part of this will be completed. Then all you have to do is go through and create a template or a standard operating procedure for each part of the process, and you'll have a near bulletproof onboarding system that's reliant on standard operating procedures instead of you as the business owner. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.